Good afternoon and welcome to Blues Deluxe. And it's my pleasure to have Fred Hostetler with me on the line. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, John, and I just want to say it's great to be here with you on Blues Deluxe.
Thank
My
you.
privilege.
Well, let's talk about Blues Deluxe. You know where that name came from? A Jeff Beck song.
Oh, that's right. Well, yeah, unfortunately, that makes me happy, but then it makes me sad because he just passed,
I know. I
you
know.
know, and we were speaking before the recording about Karen Lawrence, and
Yep.
Karen and I wrote a song with him. Uh, and so we got to know him a little bit there in the studio. Back on the Streets was the name of the song. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, and that came from the album Truth. That was the song on the album Truth that Rod Stewart sang on.
The Blues Deluxe.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what this show
Oh
was
man,
named after, that song.
yeah. And th- you mentioned that album. I have to say because these things come into my head. That's a great cassette. I had it as a cassette.
Yep.
Jimmy Iovine, when I was at the record plant, this is when he was still an engineer. He took now he's a I don't know what,
Yep.
multimillionaire, but he said, "Oh, can I borrow that cassette? Can I borrow that cassette?" And I said, "Okay, sure." I never got that cassette back. And that's one of my. There's dogs begin to bark all over my neighborhood. There's
Yep.
another song that's on there that's great. All that Jeff Beck and
Oh yeah.
lead work and stuff. Anyhow, yeah, that's
So
cool.
so where'd you grow up? Where'd you start out?
I'm from Goshen, Indiana, which is in northern Indiana. And the one thing, it's quite a community. Well, John Fogerty got married in Elkhart, which is about 10 miles
Yeah.
next to our town. But it's quite a little musical community there. Selmer Band Instruments is there, and Crown amplifiers from the early days of rock, which were the icon of power amps. They were there, and there was a pretty nice little music scene there. And so that's how I got started. And I'd go up to Chicago and listen to the blues up on Maxwell Street and some other places there. And we heard, Otis Rush was there playing and blah. And when you mention things, and a lot of things come into my mind. My dad, and one thing I never forgot was this started the curiosity and love for the blues because I wasn't that old. This was back in the later 50s, but he took me up there, and we had time in between. We were on a train. He took me down to Maxwell Street, and he was looking. It's all black community and neighborhood. And he went into the pawn shop. Outside the pawn shop is a guy with a guitar, sitting and playing, sitting on his amplifier. And people are putting a dime in or a quarter and stuff like that. And
Yep.
I was just from the cornfields of a little town. I don't know. So this was quite. I never forgot that, but I never forgot that my dad took me there, and showed me all these things. And my dad loved music also, and always sang in choirs and stuff. So that's how I got my start.
And then listening to music as a kid, what types of music were you listening to or hearing on the radio?
Well, I have to thank my older brother because he brought home a Bo Diddley album, the first Bo Diddley album. And, I don't know anything, but I heard that, and that really, then he brought home a Jimmy Reed album, and I really liked that, all this sort of Chicago stuff. And so that was there pretty early on. And then, of course, Elvis Don't Be Cruel, and that was like my first favorite thing I think I ever. And Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, and that kind of stuff, and all the Jerry Lee Lewis, that early rock stuff that was really Breathless and Great
Yeah.
Balls of Fire and all that kind of, which is really close to, it's emotional. It has that
Connection.
yeah, it has connection right back on down the chain there to blues. It's just
Yeah.
one sort of integrated step up. But they were all playing together. That's the thing I learned later that I didn't know that like BB King said too, or many of them said there was no color line between musicians. And, we taught each other, they learned from each other, and so on and so forth. So I always liked that too.
Well, it looks like you've been a studio musician. You almost started out as a studio musician in some of the things that I'm reading about you.
Well, when I was in college there in Indiana, we got the money together, went up to RCA and recorded our own single, and that we did Corina Corina on one side, and the other was Evil. It's on YouTube, and it's in the like Indiana Hall of Fame garage band, kind of thing. It's still there, those things. And Backdoor Man was also Backdoor Man we did. Anyhow, so I don't know how we managed to do that, but we did it on our own. We didn't have anybody, and we released it back then. It was played on some radio stations. And but after that, there was a gap, and then we got to New York as a band, and that's when out on the East Coast, that's when things got to moving with the recording because we got to know Jack Douglas, and we also were there with Kiss. Ron Johnson, who produced Kiss right before they became Kiss. We were in Electric Ladyland Studios. We were both there. So somehow we got lucky, and once you start knowing people in New York who are producers, that is really helpful. And they knew
Yeah.
what we could do. They knew we could sing, and it just sort of built up from there, and we got a chance to do some of those things. And Eric Troyer, one of the guys in that band, went on to sing. John Lennon called him the voice. He sang with John Lennon on his album. He sang with on Meatloaf. So many hit songs. He's singing on my stuff. He's doing that. So I'm really happy. Not that it's going to be a hit, but because I'm working with my friend again, and we're doing stuff and collaborating. I just got off the phone with him 10 minutes before talking with you. And
Yep.
that's about this Where is Bob Marley song that Karen and she sings on it also. That'll come out the end of May.
Karen Lawrence from Blue by Nature. You
Yeah.
and her. Like
Yeah.
I told you, that band was great. You guys were great. Is Blue by Nature still around? Are you guys still
No, it pretty much broke up about 2000. In 2000, it carried on stumbling. I left the band, then I went to India. Um, just I needed a change of venue.
Well, I'm gonna ask you about India a little bit later on in this
Yeah,
interview.
yeah. So the band, I when I came back from India, we did release a best of live CD, and I did some remixing of some of that, and sort of some of the really extended versions that were on Live at the Lake. I put them into a more compact edition, so that they're more like a 4-minute song instead of 7 minutes. Because live, we when we did that album, I wanted it to be a record of how good we were live, and the improvisation and just we'd go up, we'd go down, we'd go here, we'd go there, and it was just great. It was a lot of
Well,
fun.
I'm noticing some records that I grew up with that you were on that I didn't realize you were even on them. How's that?
I pro-
Johnny Winter, John Dawson Winter's 3.
yeah,
You're on that one.
yeah,
1974.
that was we only sang, no, we sang on two songs. That was the band that was in that I'm talking about in New York. They used us a lot of times for background vocals, and we could go in there and do help with that. That's what happened on that one. Um, let's see, I Was Raised on Rock was the main one we
Yep.
sang that track.
And then Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. You were on that one too, playing
Uh,
percussion.
yeah, yeah, we did a bunch of things.
How did that come about?
Well, that's Jack Douglas.
Yep.
That's because Jack was before Aerosmith went boom. Jack, we were working with Jack. He found us out there in New Jersey. We had a band house, and I don't know how we met him. I really don't. I'm not. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look. Maybe it's in my journal. But uh, so that's how that all worked out.
And
He
you
started,
and
but
you Yeah, go ahead.
once Aerosmith broke, he had no time. He because they were working on the next thing and then the next thing, and he would he was all of a sudden way too busy. So we sort of fell by the wayside at that point.
And then Billy Squier, Tales of the Tape. You were on that one too. Actually, you wrote a song on it, right?
Yeah, with Billy. Not only that, but I was his guitar tech on the one tour for him after our band broke up. Then I was a guitar tech for one tour, and we were pretty friendly. And I did about 23 songs with him. We did them just slide guitar and guitar. They were like demos for the next album at Todd Rundgren's studio.
Studio. Yep.
Yeah, there in New York. And then he wanted me to go to be his tech because I still wasn't with a band. Oh yeah, well Karen and I were just signed to Revolver Records in UK. She did an album there. What was the name of it? It was it was a solo album, but I couldn't go out with him because I didn't want to ruin that project. It was just going into recording at that time. So
Yep. And then another one of my favorite records that you're on. I didn't know was Another Gray Area from Graham Parker.
oh, that was a riot. Eric sang, Karen sang on that also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Eric Troyer sang on that also. We also, so that's the thing. If you, we were lucky, and thanks to Jack, uh, things worked out in a good way most of the time in New York, even though it's not always easy.
And then Jeff Beck, a few records you were involved with. People Get Ready on the Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart single.
That was on the opposite. Yeah, the B side. That's
Yep.
the B side. Yeah, Back on the Street, I think it was,
Yep.
or something
Back
like
on the
that.
Street. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great story. We got called up because Rod couldn't do anything. They wanted him to write the lyric and stuff, and
Yep.
this had to be released. The record company's screaming, it has to be done now. We want the single, blah blah blah. And so the engineer at the record plant in Los Angeles called us up and said, "Could you come over and there's a project maybe you can help on, and it's Jeff Beck and well, yeah, I think so." And so we went over there and met him and talked, and the next thing you know, I went home and we were up all night writing the lyric, and I was working on my little 8-track, with the tape he gave us. I mean, they gave us a cassette, then I put it onto the reel to reel, and then we started working with it to a melody. This sort of works here. Here's a lyric, and boom. The next day in the morning, about 11 o'clock, I think it was, we went in and to say, this is what we have. And he said, great, let's go with it.
That's
So,
great.
yeah, it was great. Those things don't happen very often in life. At least that's my experience.
So before Billy Squier, I didn't realize this. I'm looking at this. You were a guitar tech with Frank Marino as well
That's right. Yeah.
in
After that,
Mahogany Rush.
yeah, that was also that was fun.
Tell me a little bit about what that was like for you.
Well, I didn't. I made one. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is one of the first gigs was over in New Jersey at that what is it, Giant Stadium out there? With
Yep.
that, I don't know what it is now. Well, there was a huge concert going on there, with 5 bands, that kind of a thing. They were the opening band, and I went on there, and I went out early. There's a lot of people there and all that, and I have to check you have to check everything's working, and so I plug in. I made the mistake of playing like the opening riff that he plays. And then I put the guitar down, and the stage manager for Marino comes over. Don't do that again. Don't ever do that. If he hears you doing that, he'll go ballistic. So warm up, make sure everything's working with some other song. But he didn't talk too much. I didn't get to know. It's not like Billy. I knew Billy, but Frank, he was in his own world at that time, pretty much. But he was playing well. He played real well. I just made sure his stuff was working right, and he was happy, but he didn't talk much.
So around 82, 83, you were a sound tech and stage technician for a bunch of different people for that short period of time. What made you decide you wanted to do that other than being a musician at that time?
Well, after the collapse of our Jack Douglas, we were after John Lennon died, we were the next project for Jack Douglas. His last album came out, and that's a whole story. And I'll just briefly go into it
Yep.
because we were there that night because we had a meeting with Jack after the playback of the finished album, and John Lennon was there up in Studio C at the record plant on 44th Street in New York, Manhattan. And we were there. We waited outside the door. The door was open. That was a courteous thing, a proper thing to do. But we could stand there and listen to the playback, and they were talking, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's happy and everything. John walks out, gets into the elevator. Yoko goes back to make a call. And then we go in to talk to Jack because our project is supposed to start with RCA Records, the Girls Night Out album that she was on, which is sort of a new wave kind of thing. And then the call came, and then that was not a good. That's not a good way to start your own album. I'll tell you that. That cast a shadow over the whole project, and but the point is being that's how I ended up going out of New York, and a promoter there in Los Angeles brought us out there. Avalon Attractions, one of the guys there, brought us out there to maybe get us signed there. But meanwhile, I have to make some
Money, right?
money. Yeah, and so I was able, thanks to friends, to go to work. And because I had a little background in stuff, I was able
Sound,
to,
yeah. Yeah, you
yeah,
had
I could
sound
go out there.
background.
And there's sometimes I did lights though too. I think the Tom Petty show at the Forum. Uh, I did lights, and I think that was the first time I climbed up into the rigging on one of those drop down, those little hand over hand drop down ladders. And that I didn't tell anybody I hadn't done that. So I just, okay, swallow hard, let's go. And up I went.
And you were part of the Spinal Tap movie. I saw.
That was also, yeah, that was really fun. There was a lot of, and I always thought when I saw that movie, but my name got left off in the credits. I was disappointed about that. Anyhow, because they put all the crew there, but I didn't get my name in there. But I have proof because I have Spinal Tap, the location page. It
Yeah.
says we're here today and all this stuff. I have one of those in my records, so I can prove that I was actually there. But seeing that done, it was hilarious. And I always thought that there were scenes that I thought were left out that were just so better than the
And the
ones that
ones
were
that
put.
were in the movie, right?
Yeah, but it could have been the angle wasn't right. But from where, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's probably those things. But from where I was, oh my gosh, we'd be laughing, laughing, laughing.
Tell me about India. You some part of your life all of a sudden you moved to India. What was that? What
Yeah,
was the impetus for
well,
you to do that?
it's just I started. It was I needed a change of venue, in a way, and I just thought because I'd been working with Blue by Nature, working with Karen for a long time. We're working together and doing stuff, and then when Blue by Nature finally spun apart, uh, I said, I've got to get a new perspective, and things as it turned out, that was I just sort of pulled the thread that appeared to me, and it was possible to do some stuff, so that's what I did. I ended up doing service over there for about 17 years at different places, but one of them mainly at one place in Tamil Nadu. It was like an ashram, but it's not just Hindu or something like that. It's multi religions, and but that was like computer classes, wells for water projects. Money just came in, and I was sort of there at the beginning of it, and so I was involved in setting up, helping set up all these programs there. So that sort of really, made up for my just thinking about music, 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 music.
But were you doing music when you were over there? I think you
Yeah,
were. You
I
were.
was. I was. I sang I sang and played guitar almost every day, but it not in a Western style so much. But I'm still playing all the time. And then in about 2012, no 20, I started recording some things there, um, as it was possible to do on computer at that time. That's when things started. You could get software that started to be halfway decent, and so I started doing some things there.
Let's talk about some of the recordings that you've done. Um,
Okay.
Wall of Dreams. Tell me about Wall of Dreams.
Well, Wall of Dreams, everything that I've done since I've gotten back, first of all, it's things I have to get out of me, that sort of built up that I was never able to do. And why wasn't I ever able to? I never had a solo career. And because I was ready to be signed to a little label, Max's Kansas City. Okay. When I saw the contract, I said, there's no way I'm not going to do it. I already know too many people that have, this just locks them up and it's not worth it. And so I put that off. So when I came back, I wanted to do these, get some of these solo things out of my way. And so that's what that's all about. And Wall of Dreams is one of those projects. And that was the last album I did a year ago. And it's sort of psychedelic. It's a cross of older rock, psychedelic. There's one song I did with my friend Eric Troyer, because he and we love the Beatles. He worked with John, and we have that same mentality. And so the title track is sort of I wanted to do that with him, and I waited for several years to be able to till things worked out and he was available to do that. And uh, I don't know. Some reviewers say they I think they basically look at it as a combination of retro sort of rock and psychedelic, and maybe it has a sort of a spiritual underpinning underneath. It's not maybe relevant at the top, but it's sort of a interior sort of thing. Some of it.
Fred's Blue.
That's pretty vague, I know.
Tell me about Fred's Blue Chair Blues. That's an interesting title.
Oh yeah, that was great. Uh, that album, and I never was going to release that. I did it because that's COVID time, and you couldn't do anything. And I had a old blue chair, which is right over here by me now, and I sat on that chair right here where I'm talking to you now in this room with this computer and two microphones, and it was done live, and there was also a camera shooting everything. And then that's what that is. It's virtually live, but it's done here. And I taped it at the same time because there was a show called Can't Stop the Blues on Facebook where you could put your video up there. And then it's not perfect. It's done like living room blues, front porch kind of blues. The one reviewer says it's like, I thought I was listening to a field recording, done in the old days. Not as bad. He didn't say that as it's bad, but it had sort of a rawness that seemed to really appeal, that simplicity that came across. And many people like it, and I never was going to release it because it's not perfect. But I
It
had
doesn't have to be.
that. You're right, but it took a dream, and in the dream, a voice says, release that as an album."
Was great.
And I
It's a
woke
great
up.
album. I listened to it. It's
Oh,
pretty good,
really?
actually. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Don't know. I just did it, and thank you. But I could have done better. But that's what it was at the time, and I'm glad that some people appreciated it.
Well, it does sound like, a period piece is what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
But it it's genuine. That's the whole thing. You're
Well,
genuine in what you're portraying on the songs too.
oh, thank you. I mean, and that was the point. It's live. I mean, I'm and yeah, that's that.
And that's not easy to do, to recreate something like that, to get it to sound that way, and you did, which is good.
Well, thank you. I did what I could do at the time with what I had, and I guess that's what musicians always do. We can't always be in the best studios. We can't always have the best engineer that you want. This and that and the other thing. The equipment may not be the best, but I'll tell you, those old guys, when you listen, they're still great when you hear them because it's real.
Yeah,
And I still use this little slide guitar because it sounds like an old Stella or an old 1930s Robert Johnson guitar, or something. It just has that sound, and I keep that thing over here by me.
that's
I
good.
took it's been around the world twice. It was in India with me, so it's got a lot of soul.
So the latest, you have a single late. It's called Orphan Blues, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that just came out this
That
February.
that came out in February, yeah, and I haven't really hit stride with that yet um, in promoting it because I'm an independent uh, producer and record artist and all that, and you know what that means. We have to do everything, and it takes time. And I virtually have my next album done. It's recorded, but it's not mixed. So I'm releasing a couple things and at a time, and then I'll release everything in about
Any
2 months.
name for the what the album's going to be
Yeah,
called?
probably rain walking.
Rain
Rain
Walking.
walking.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm here in the Pacific Northwest, and there's several songs that are rain, and it's sort of it's personal, but it's a little more. Uh, but I just heard one song that Eric just finished mixing, and I'm excited. It was. I never thought it could turn out like that. It's just this is what I like. I like this, but that's the thing. I like Blue Chair Blues also, you know, that's simple. And so I'm always fighting back and forth between simplicity, but I grew up going through the whole,
Gamut
the
of
from the
all of it.
Beatles to
Yep.
so it's like all these things are in my head and in my heart.
And
And
blues has been there your whole life. It's a thread throughout the stuff that you've done all your life.
yeah, that's right.
You can
So
just I'm looking at all the recordings you're part of and things that you've done, and a lot of it has a blues thread throughout it all.
yeah, well, but this makes it, well, it's, what am I saying? I'm thinking about the blues community, which
Yep.
I value, and that's part of my, was focused on always. Uh, but it's hard because you're stepping out of the genre a bit, and a lot of people don't will not accept that. But it's a lot better now than when I left. Back in 2000, um, and there's a lot more openness to play to in the blues format than there was at that time.
Yep.
You can the people play lots of different stuff. Even from my albums, they'll play. That's not really blues. They'll play a song that He's Gone Rogue, which is sort of more Americana song. But there's a lot of Americana with a blues bass,
Well,
and
that's what
there's
I mean by the thread of blues is there.
yeah,
You can hear it.
yeah, yeah.
You can
That's
hear
right.
it. So tell me
So
about Karen Lawrence. We were basically talking about Blue by Nature, another band that I really liked when you guys tell me about Karen and what is she like?
well, she's a force of nature. And but she also has a quiet side too. She's extrovert in a crowd,
And an
but when
introvert when she's
yeah,
not with a crowd,
yeah,
right?
yeah, then she's more of an introvert. She pulls back in, but uh, she's great, and she's playing down there in Texas locally, in southern Texas. She does show some stuff down there, and she can do solo with acoustic. She can do that, or sometimes she has three a guitar player, bass, and band every now and then, not all the time. But I don't think she wants to tour at this point. She's sort of staying like I am. I'm staying local. I play a few local little things, and I'm happy and I enjoy it. I may help with the senior center, go and play for some older
Folks, yep,
people, or
yep.
that kind of thing. I also did that right before I left for India. I played in Southern California solo for mostly retirement places of all sorts. Rich people, they have a budget. If you don't have a budget, I don't care. I'll play. I'll come in, and do for people that are
That's
surviving in the.
great. That's great that you do
Oh,
that.
it was wonderful. I mean, it may be great for them, but it was great for me. I mean, it's so meaningful, when you see you're having an effect, or the music is making someone happy.
Yep.
The admiral sitting there who they brought in a wheelchair, and I play it one song, and I see his hand start moving on tapping like that, and the nurse comes in, oh, and tells me afterwards, oh my gosh, Fred, he hasn't done anything like that in the last 3 months. We haven't seen, he hasn't, he's just like out. he's enjoying it. He may not be able to show it on his face. He probably had a stroke or something, but and I'd go out and sit in my Volkswagen van and I just have to sit there for a while and just
How's that make you feel? I bet you're great that you're able to
oh
do that.
it's I didn't want to drive. I just had to take it in. It was just so uplifting. It was like a gift back to me,
Yeah.
that I'm giving, and I felt that made me happy. But I always liked that. I think
Over the years, I got a question for you about all the sessions that you've been on, all the things that you've been involved with. Pick one that that's memorable for you that you want to talk about.
well,
You could probably give me 50 of them, but give me one that that you have a reminder of it all, every so often.
okay, well, but there's actually both those things. The ones that really there's two. One I don't talk about much. That was the House of Blues. Oh, when right after the House of Blues opened in Los Angeles up on Sunset Strip, and that was opening for Eddie Money, Blue by Nature. Rick Dufay was the original band, and we did good. We were really good. The audience was great. The place was great, and there was a right above the stage was a picture of this Indian saint, Satya Sai Baba, and I had gone to his ashram for some time, a couple times, and I just thought that was really cool. Now I get to play on this stage, and this whole place came about sort of because of him, because Isaac Tigert was a devotee of him.
Yep.
And now Isaac Tigert just put this whole wonderful musicians place together. That's the best musician place. It's a shame it came down, but that's the way it is.
Yep.
That's the way things go.
We had one here in Cambridge, Mass.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
house,
yeah.
and he converted the house into a performing, and he had the ashram gentleman on top of
He
ours.
had that guy, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sai Baba. And I'll say one real more quick thing. The other place was Universal City, City Walk, BB King's club there. And that was a great night when BB King, we were on stage there, Blue by Nature, same band, and BB King came in. And oh my gosh, and he came and sat over at this table and he's listening to us. And then our set ended. We only did about 2 songs till that set ended. We went upstairs and walked by the table, and he didn't look up that much. I think he was talking at the time. Then we're upstairs. Oh my gosh, I don't know if he really likes it. We're in his club, and but he came upstairs and he was great. He came. Bodyguards were there with him. He came up and he said, "I just wanted to come and tell you I really enjoy the show. I've liked what you're doing. Don't worry if I walk out and leave in the middle of your set. It's not because I don't love what you're doing. It's because I have a meeting with some big people in the hotel. We're supposed to have a meeting about something there." And he took a picture with us. He shook hands with all of us, and he was great.
A gentleman is what he was.
Just a gentleman. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's so thoughtful of him to say something. He
Mhm.
knows musicians, and he knows we're going to feel a bit strange, but he just made us feel so ill at ease and appreciative. I'm glad you're here. You're doing a good job. So we got a blessing from the king.
Tell me a story about Jack Douglas, the producer of all producers.
Wow, that's hard. Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's got a new project with Cheap Tricks, the son, Robin Zander's son, that's just out. It's coming out that he just produced. I don't know how that will be. The record business now. Who knows? I mean, it's not like it used to be. But an old story. Let's see. Um,
I mean, he's known for all the recordings that he's been involved with. I mean, with
he, he
Aerosmith and everyone
he's the
else.
character. I can tell you this: he's a character. He he has fun. He likes to have fun. Um, I just well, he did a great job. Well,
Well, that John Lennon story was pretty good. You were talking about with him.
yeah, we were that was crushing story though. That was really hard. I'm just trying. I it's slipping. I had one.
As a
I,
person, I mean, as a producer and a person, I know you've followed him throughout his career in different places and helped him out with vocals and other things. And I thought I'd ask you that question to see if there was anything that you could let the listening audience know about him that we don't
well,
know about him.
I'll tell you one personal thing. When the band the band there in New York that I was in, and when that fell apart, I went up and asked him, Jack, can I come and just sit in on your sessions? I'll sit out, I'll be quiet. And he said, sure, Fred. And I got up there to see many people. When Bruce Springsteen was in recording his first album, I was there. I not Jack wasn't producing, but I'd go by. So you're in that atmosphere of creativity, and I get to hear what's going on because of Jack. I'm here, really. So thank you, Mr. Douglas. So he's got a big heart, and he's always for musicians. He's always for musicians.
That's great.
In his when if it comes to creative things, yeah, he goes with musicians. Not he tends not to go with company. You got to shorten that, or that's not a hit, or this is maybe it's a flaw, maybe it's not, but to me, it's not.
Well, he's been successful, so whatever it is, he's got it.
Oh, I do have it. There is one story just reminded me of.
Okay.
After Frank Marino, I was in Montreal when that tour ended. What am I going to do? I don't have a job. I have to go back to New York, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And so uh, I went to, there's a person with the band, Mahogany Rush, who she's sort of like a seer, a seer,
Mm-hmm.
a seer woman.
Yeah.
And one of the band members said, well, go out and talk to her. Maybe she can help you. So I went out there, and she said, Fred, don't worry. Everything's going to change. Everything will change in the next 24 hours. That's all she said. Don't worry. And I said, well, should I stay? She said, no, we're done. That's it. Go. And I went back. Okay. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I went and looked up my friend who is a roadie that he's still doing Jackson Brown, and he went all over the place. Chuck Berry anyhow, he's a friend. I called him up in New Jersey. Jersey's phone is 201 is the area code.
Yep.
I dialed his number 201, blah, blah, blah. I said, hello, is this John? And he said, yes, this is John. I said, is this Jack? And he says, is this Fred? I got Jack Douglas on a remote session out on the island, Long Island, where he had just set up to do a recording out there. And Jack says, I've been trying to find out where you are and get a hold of you because I got a job for you. That was working with
See?
Karen's band, 1994. That's how I met Karen.
So there you go. There's your 24. It was less than 24 hours. How's that?
I was on, and not only that, who was he recording? Eric Troyer, my friend,
Friend.
my
In who
friend.
was in your original band? Yep.
Yeah. Unbelievable. He was signed to Chrysalis for a little bit. Eric was, but
Yep.
they didn't release it. Something happened. I don't know what happened.
And you
Anyhow,
and you're all out still playing, all of you. How's
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. We're all still doing it. And she's got enough to do to release an album. I just think she's, instead of just saying, well, let's do it under, we have our own label, Hostel Records, and we release it through CD Baby. I mean, we could do that. That's how I do my own stuff. Because, and we did release a single, and we released that Best of Live, Blue by Nature, Karen Lawrence and Blue by Nature live
Yep.
album. So maybe she'll just decide, well, let's put something out. I think she should just put it out, but that's up to her.
So how do people find out about you, Fred?
Well,
You have a website,
I'm
right?
on. Yeah, I have a website. It's named after my first album. Well, it's Fred's Heart Radio. It's all one word, fredsheartradio.com. I'm on there. And if you look up my name, Fred Hostetler, I'm on Facebook. Then you can get everything also. If you go to YouTube, look up Fred Hostetler. I have my own channel that also has Twitter, Instagram, all those links are on there. So all you have to do is just Fred Hostetler, musician, and everything comes up on Google. Mr. Google will help.
One last question. When's the new record you got coming out? When do you think it will be coming out?
Um, it's like May 23rd or 4th, I think. So
Wow.
it won't be long.
And
That's
they
called
and,
Where is Bob Marley?
and that they'll be able to get that at CD Baby and directly from you, right?
Well, yeah, it'll be CD Baby. It streams everywhere.
Okay.
So you know, you can buy it on Amazon, but that'll be a stream. I won't do a CD until probably June, probably in July. Maybe I'll finish it later in July. It just takes some time. I have to mix 4 other songs. Yeah.
Great. Well, Fred, thank you very much for taking some
John,
time
thank
out.
you.
How are the
Thank,
questions, by the way? I meant to ask you that.
the questions are great.
Thank you.
They're great. I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation, and I thought we talked about some good, meaningful stuff and things that
Well, you have
are.
quite a history. I could be with you for hours asking you even more about all of it.
I know, but I think I could ask you about stuff too. I mean, you know, you've been doing this a long time, and it's great. It's wonderful, and it's it's just things have changed a lot.
So
Uh,
much. Over the
yeah,
years, everything has changed so
yeah.
much.
And I just, when I came back here, I mean, my head was spinning. I mean, I sort of came back at a time when everything in the whole United States just went nuts too. So
Well, yeah,
that,
the record industry is completely blown up. I mean,
it's blown out. Yeah.
and artists like you have to figure out how to get your music to people now because distribution is not the same as it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh,
It's tough, but, you know, I just soldier on the best I can, and try to stay local. I can't tour a lot. I can't do that. It's hard to put a band together because money is so.
It's expensive now.
It's expensive, and you know, we have places around here. They had to cancel the band because the whole place closed because there was no help that night. All of a sudden, people got sick. There was nobody to run the thing. Well, so if you start missing 2 shows, and you have 3 other people with you, I mean, things go south really quick
Yep.
because there's no backup. It's just me. So I try to do, if I can, I always try to play with a bass player and drummer here. Sometimes if I want to, I play by myself at a small little place. That's fun too, and I enjoy it. And we'll see.
And
I
you
did a
still
show.
you still keep contact with all those people from your past as well that are still out there.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
That's good.
there's yeah. It's good. I'd like to. The one good thing of so many people, so many independent artists, and they're playing music, and I really am happy about that. Seeing and there is a lot of opportunity, but you have to be sort of tuned in to be able to handle it, because
Well,
it's
you have to be in
independent.
the right place at the right time too. Sometimes.
I- I'd say all the time. I mean, just the stories I told. I happen to be there and somehow get hooked up with this or with that. And in some ways, it's just, I don't know, it's sort of dumb luck, but you have to be out there.
Yep.
And as Steven Tyler told Karen, you have to be ready when it comes.
He's right, though. You do. You have to be ready
Yeah,
when it comes.
yeah, because you don't always get more opportunities,
Nope.
so.
Well, Fred, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks.
if you ever, I don't know if you'll ever come to the East Coast again, but if you ever do, I'd love to go see you if you come to town.
I just don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
I have a friend out. Well, Eric he's in New Jersey. And so he knows a lot of people there too. You never know. Maybe I'll get out there and do some small,
Venue. Yep.
do some small venues or something like that. Maybe I can do something like that. I'd like to because I know some people. I also know another person down in the Atlantic City. Maybe if I can just, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. If I can maybe sometime. I hope
Yeah.
so.
We'll see.
I'll
Well,
keep you in mind.
thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thanks.
All
Thanks,
right.
John.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye.